Hey guys, welcome back. Gonna do a little video this time about our brake switch. So if you're a seasoned Y62 Patrol owner, Series 1 to Series 4, you'll probably know that there was a few issues with the brake switches quite commonly, especially if you changed over to aftermarket taillights. So from factory, the chrome, albeit pretty hideous looking rear taillights are all LEDs. Changing them over to the Nismo style taillights, they go to a conventional halogen globe. So without changing those globes to LEDs, it actually causes a lot of problems with the Y62 taillight system. So on the brake pedal, you've got two switches. You've got one to stop the cruise control and the other one is for the taillights. The taillight circuit in the Patrol is very temperamental on the best of days. Once you have different globes, non-LED globes in the rear taillights, it must draw a lot more current through that brake switch. So I haven't traced through the wiring diagram as yet, but it does seem with the problems that it causes, the brake switch is after the relay system and there's actually full current flowing through the brake switch when you have aftermarket taillights. So when you go from LED obviously to halogen, the halogens use a lot more power and draw a lot more current. Basically it's just too much for the brake switch. The other thing that can do it as well is if you've got a aftermarket brake controller in there for your caravan or your trailer as well, the extra load on that brake switch is known to cause trouble in some people's cars. Not all, it's pretty intermittent, but a very, very common issue is the tail lights and the brake switch going. So I'll show you our tail lights now, exactly which ones we have, and also where to get them if you want to grab them as well if you've got a Series 1 to Series 4. The Series 5 changed the style of tail lights, so they're not really applicable. But we actually went through probably about 5 or 6 switches. Nissan did come to the party for us and they did replace about 3 of them under warranty and never ever mentioned to me anything about the tail light. It's more of a nuisance than anything. After doing a lot of research and sort of figuring out exactly what was going on and why it was happening, we switched over and bought some aftermarket LED globe replacements. There's lots of options. KO Gear have some that'll be drop in if you don't want to do any research. They've done all the research for you, or you can go jump onto eBay and get the globe types and, you know, have a bit of a play around and see if they last. We grabbed a couple off eBay quite cheap and they've worked well for us, but yeah, it's up to you exactly which way you want to go if it comes to that. As far as the brake switches are concerned, you've got 2 different options. There is an aftermarket Tridon switch that is used on a few other different models, or you've got the genuine Nissan switch as well. There's a ton of people like Patrol Apart and Nissan themselves obviously, and eBay that sell the genuine Nissan part. From memory, the genuine Nissan one is about between $30 and $50 depending on where you get it from, and the Tridon one was between $15 and $30. So the Trident was a little bit cheaper. I'll throw the part number down below and the genuine Nissan part number I'll put up now as well. So you've got those 2 options to go. Now the brake switch is really, really easy to change over. It's the lower switch of the 2 on the brake pedal, and basically it just sort of give it a twist, a half turn, and then it'll pull straight out, and then you put the new one in and twist again, and there's just a fairly basic little clip on the back. Telltale signs for when your brake switch is going. It's either working or it's not. Once the brake switch stops working, you'll know straight away, because when you put your foot on the brake, you're probably not going to notice, but the rear tail lights aren't going to light up. But the main telltale sign is that the car's not going to start. It's in park or neutral, and you go to push the start button, nothing's going to happen. The ignition's going to come on, the dash lights are going to come on, but the starter motor's not going to crank. Obviously, you're locked out from starting the car, and you're also locked out from shifting the car out of park as well. There are ways around shifting it out of park into neutral if you need to. As far as starting the car, it's not going to happen with that broken faulty brake switch. So the best thing to do, if you do have an aftermarket brake controller for your caravan or trailer, is you can hold that brake controller in, depending on how it's been wired in. Most of the time you can hold the brake controller in and then push the start button, and that's basically mimicking your foot being on the brake. So usually the brake controller is wired in after the brake switch, and that will chuck the brake lights on and let you start the car. So that'll get you out of trouble if you do have a faulty brake switch. What I'll do here is I'll pull the brake switch apart and I'll talk you through it, and I'll show you exactly where it fails, and I'll let you know that I have bypassed a faulty brake switch without replacing it while I was away on a trip once. So basically it does burn out the little tracks, as I'll show you here on inside the switch, and you'll smell it as well. It's actually quite electrically, and it actually melts through the wall of the switch. You'll see down here that the switch tracks along the wall have melted all the way through, and there's actually 2 little fingers that push against the track. So I ended up bending those little fingers out a little bit further to make contact, and then put the switch back in, and that did let me start the car and get it home. And then I booked it in and Nissan did replace the switch for me. The switches are easy enough to carry with you. They're cheap enough. We always just have one in the car now. It's much easier, just in case. But in saying that, we've not had any dramas in probably about 20,000 Ks now. We were having trouble with our brake switch probably every 5,000 Ks on the 5,000 K mark. Within, you know, a couple of 100 Ks, you'd know that, you know, you're coming up to the point where the brake switch was going to fail. And after a while, it was me being lazy, but after a while, we did do what we need to do to stop that happening. So putting a bit of research in and having a look around and seeing what other people were having issues with as well, we came to the conclusion it's definitely those LED taillights, and the way to bypass it is using that brake controller. So what I'll do now is I'll show you a way to do that with the brake controller, and then I'll show you how to pop the switch out. It's all quite easy. I just thought I'd make a little video just in case there was someone back when I first started having the issue and I wasn't as aware of what was going on or why it was happening. I wish there was more videos and more information out there, so hopefully this helps some people as well. So as you know, having a Y62 Patrol, you need to have your foot on the brake and then you push the start switch for the car to start. If you don't have your foot on the brake or you have a failed brake switch, you can push the start button, the ignition will come on, but the car won't start. So this is the same thing that happens when the brake switch has failed. So what you can do is, once we're at the point where all the ignition's on, if I have a failed brake switch, I've got my foot on the brake, and I come over to our brake controller, I can hold this in without my foot on the brake, and I push it will start. Perfect, so no foot on the brake, that was just me holding the brake controller in. All right, coming down below, I'm going to show you where the brake switches are located. So this is obviously the brake pedal, accelerator pedal, and the foot brake over here. So what we'll do is, hopefully you'll be able to see this, but we're going to follow this brake pedal up here. And then if she focuses, I have to turn the light on. So up here, we can follow the brake pedal. This is still the brake pedal all the way up. And there's going to be two switches, as I said before. That first one is for cruise control. So that's for if you tap the brake and you want the cruise control to turn off. And this second one up here is, I've still got an aftermarket one in mine. I've got the Tridon. So this is the aftermarket switch. It was just a half turn and they pop out. So that's the Tridon brand, which is the aftermarket brand brake switch. And like I said, that's used in a few different models as well. So it's a fairly basic unit. You can see the threads on the side there. So all that does is stick in the hole and do a half turn, and it's locked in at whatever position you're in. So you just want to make sure when the brake pedal is depressed like that, that it's holding it in. As soon as you push the brake, it lets it out. Fairly straightforward and fairly basic, fairly easy to change. As you would have seen, I just did that one-handed. I'll try and pop it back in one-handed for you as well now. So if I go up, sorry, it's a bit tricky to see, but it literally just sits in. You can see the little white switch pushing on the brake pedal till it closes in, and a half turn, and she's in, all done. And then we'll just pop that plug back on. And then this other one, again, just pops in the hole. So again, you just want it to be depressed in there. You don't want it to stop the brake pedal. You just want that button to be pushed in. And then a half turn and all done. Easy enough to change.